Hey there, this is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. Welcome back. Sitting next to me right now is Matt DesChamp. He is currently a member of the Board of Estimate and Taxation right here in beautiful Greenwich, Connecticut. He is also a candidate for BET in the municipal elections coming up. And Matt, tell me why it's important to vote in the election coming up.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Trevor. I appreciate being part of the Friends part of Trevor and Friends. So thank you for
You are a friend.
Thank you for the invitation. It's important to vote, period. It's particularly important to vote in municipal elections now, given all that's going on in Washington, the impact that it has on us locally. What happens in Washington does very much affect what happens to us in our neighborhoods. It affects our schools. It affects our quality of life. It affects the health care that we can access. And so, we rely heavily, too, on grant funding from both the federal government and the state. That is under attack right now, as well as many of your listeners know. And that puts a particular pressure on local governments to fund needed services that the town relies on.
That's really important, and certainly we've seen some cuts right here in Greenwich, and certainly our education funding. We had a huge cut of $4 million last session with the BET surprising us. It's a Republican-led body, and that was pretty unexpected. And how is that going to be impacted going into next year? How are you going to handle that?
Well, so next year, first we have the election. Let me just touch on that. So the election, November 4th, there are, for the benefit of your listeners, and many residents don't fully understand how the municipal election works, but as it relates to the BET, you get 6 votes. There are 13 candidates running this year. It's typically 12. 6 Republicans and 6 Democrats. This year we have 1 independent as well. But you still have 6 votes. So you can vote according to your preferences across those 6 candidates. It's certainly my hope that your listeners will elect row A, vote Democratic slate, which I'm a member of, along with 5 of my colleagues. What's important here to note, too, is that whichever party gets the most popular votes is the party that controls the tie-breaking vote. And that tie-breaking vote is critical. And in fact, that was used, as you just cited, for that $4 million Board of Education cut. So oftentimes what you'll see is votes on a variety of topics come down to a 6-6 split. It's at that moment where the chair of the party that is in control of the tie-breaking vote will make a decision on which side of that issue he or she would vote on. So it's critical. And what's important there, in my mind, is that you have somebody with sound judgment who has a clear understanding of the preferences of the town and is willing to exercise that tie-breaking vote in a manner that's consistent with the principles and the values of Greenwich.
Okay, so this is pretty complicated, and I want everybody to really listen very, very carefully, because sitting with me is Matt DesChamp. I'm Trevor Crow. This show is Trevor and Friends. Matt has been volunteering on the Board of Estimate and Taxation, going through a lot of pressure, having to understand a lot of things going on. And by the way, an immensely capable man who has got years of finance, I believe 20?
Yeah, well, actually 30. Yeah, 30, yeah. But about 30 years of experience. I've had my entire career spent on Wall Street. I'm a certified public accountant. I have a finance degree. I teach finance at Fordham. So I have a pretty strong background in finance, but so do my colleagues. And I think that's one of the things that differentiates our slate from any of the others that we've seen in recent times, is that all 6 of the Democratic candidates, and you can see on our website, have strong backgrounds in finance, have really established careers at JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, have run hedge funds, private equity firms, and really are trying to take the politics out of financial decision making. One of the things I say often is that finance and politics don't mix. Finance and healthcare don't mix. If you can separate out dogma, and you can separate out sort of ideological views and really take a look at the problem at hand and make a sound economic decision, it often is what's going to lead to the best results.
So I loved what you said just a few minutes ago regarding sound judgment. And when you vote, and you must vote, please, everybody get out and vote, but mostly Democrats, we tend to not show up by a deficit of 10% in our municipal elections. That has to stop. I'm going to admonish everybody out there, vote. Get everybody you know to vote, especially Democrats. Can't do that anymore. We got to show up. Secondly, sound judgment. You're looking at and listening to a man who has 30 years of experience on Wall Street in finance. He teaches finance. We also have several other of our members, Democratic group, who have municipal finance background, M&A background. It goes on and on. If you compare those people to who they're running against and their resumes on the Republican side, it's vastly different. So this is why I'm asking you very carefully to do your work, do your research, and find out who's going to make that sound judgment call in that tiebreaker vote and who has really got the values of our town first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's really important. And, one of the things that I found frustrating, my colleagues found frustrating, and I think a lot of the residents of Greenwich found frustrating, is that the decision-making, particularly, let's go back to the Board of Ed cut again for a moment, that $4 million cut, it wasn't done with any analysis. It wasn't done with any data. In our line of work in finance, you don't make decisions that way. You do analysis, you do the homework, you make sure you understand what the issues are, what you understand the downstream effects of your decision making, and you make a decision based on that. And so, the day before decision day on the BET, we received a packet of potential cuts, and of those cuts, we saw a $4 million cut, which was unsigned at that time, for $4 million cut from the Board of Ed, and it was one sentence of rationale. And you compare that to what the work that the Board of Ed had done, and also I should state that Board of Ed budget was passed bipartisanly, overwhelmingly, with Republican and Democratic support. And then it comes to the BET for analysis. There were no previous meetings done with the Board of Ed by the Republican Party in that moment. And then they come in and say, we're going to make a $4 million cut. And what do you get as a result of that? Earlier start times, cut positions, and a lot of very negative outcomes.
Yep. I believe we've got 24 in a class now in some parts of the school system,
That's right.
Which is really tough on teachers. They didn't get raises. Definitely not. So anyway, we're, again, just sort of back to why you want to really think about who you're electing for your Board of Estimate and Taxation. Matt DesChamp, sitting next to me, is currently on the board. He's running again. He's been doing some incredible work. I want to move on to some of the other things that you've been involved with. One is planning of the possible move of the Dorothy Hamill skating rink, which personally I felt very excited about, maybe updating it, upgrading it, and maybe moving it. So what's going on there, Matt?
Yeah, we are doing a lot of terrific work on the Hamill Rink Task Force. This was a task force that was created by the Office of First Selectman. There's 9 individuals. I'm one of 9. It's a team effort. And I do want to just mention who those 9 are. It's Catherine Ashworth, who's the vice chair, also represents the RTM. Dan Izzo, who represents the RTM. Steph Cowie, who's our secretary, does an outstanding job and is a member of the ADA Advisory Advocacy Committee. Megan Cutler, who represents the Byram Neighborhood Association. Javier Allman, who is the Energy Management Advisory Committee representative. Michael Armstrong, who represents our veterans. And Ed Fuss and Christina Schweffel, who are Office of First Selectman appointees to the task force. The reason I mention all these individuals is because there's a very significant cross-representation of major constituencies in town, all working together to find a new site for the rink.
Look at that. We can work together across the aisle to do something really great for our town, which is a just outstanding, beautiful place. And potentially we can, whether it's moving the rink, but upgrading this jewel, if you will, and once we get it up and running and in a really good spot. So how are you feeling? What's your feelings about that? Are you a skater yourself?
I am not a skater. I have video that can prove that. When I've been out with my daughters teaching them how to skate. But I do understand the importance of hockey in this community, of figure skating in this community. We have a strong tradition of both. There's also just a general recreational benefit to having facilities like that in Greenwich that people can use. So it has a strong support mechanisms around it. And, I think that what we're seeing is that there's a strong desire on the task force to get this right. And we want to make sure that we're listening. Part of leadership is listening. And you've got to listen to what the town groups are saying, particularly the Byram Neighborhood Association. We want to understand what the issues are with the current location. What were their oppositions with respect to the flip idea that failed at the RTM. So what did we do? We brought in all of the major rink user groups. We brought in the chairs of all the RTM committees that took up the flip, and we listened. We said, why? What were the issues? What were the concerns that you all had? And what we heard was that there wasn't a clear understanding of what other sites were considered. There wasn't a lot of transparency around that. And there also wasn't a clear understanding of what the cost was going to be.
There's that. Have we figured out what the cost is going to be?
So just about 2 weeks ago, the BET approved $50,000 for us to move forward with professional cost estimates for three locations, and also an environmental impact study, phase 1, for those same locations.
Cool. Are you? Could you tell us about each of those 3 locations? Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And I should mention too that for the benefit of your listeners, all of our information is on the website, so you can find it at greenwich.gov, our town website, and the Hamill Rink Task Force. It was really important to us from the beginning to put all of the agenda minutes out there. We have a bi-monthly newsletter that we put out there. There's a feedback form. If your listeners want to opine on their views on the rink, they can submit that. We read all of that information.
Can you tell us what that website's called?
Yeah, it's the Hamill Rink Task Force Task Force website. It's on the Greenwich Town website, so if you Google that, you'll go right to it. You can also go to the Greenwich Town website, and then you can type in Hamill Rink Task Force, and you'll go to our landing page, which is there. Those 3 sites that you mentioned are the Island Beach parking lot, the Horse Neck parking lot, and the Moorlot Memorial Park. And there's 2 potential configurations there. We're working as a task force to figure out what might be the most ideal. One is to build in place, in other words, to replace the Hamill Rink exactly where it is. The other is to build it adjacent to the rink, and then to take down the old rink. Those are the site locations that we're currently evaluating right now.
Now, is the Byram neighborhood group, do they want the rink back? Do they like the idea? Is the traffic concern, or would they rather see you move it elsewhere?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out exactly where their sentiments are. From what we can figure out currently, there's sort of a mixed views. There's definitely concerns about traffic. There's concerns about construction. There's concerns about having a rink in a neighborhood setting in what is a park. That is completely understandable. It's not lost on us that the rink failed there as a location, and members of the Byram Association, in particular, certain members express real concerns about it. So we have a member of the Byram Association on our task force. We also have Javier Allman, who's EMAC representative, who happens to live in Byram as well. And so they're giving us good information. We had a presentation that the town did at the Byram Association to get feedback, and we have a public meeting coming up, a second hearing actually on the 8th. We'll be hearing from them some more.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you're really checking all the boxes here. I'm really glad to hear it. And really getting everybody's buy-in and where it should be is very important. Can I personally weigh in for a second?
Please, it's your show.
So, good point. Anyway, anybody listening right now, this is Trevor Crow. It's Trevor and Friends, name of the show. We're on WGCH. I'm sitting with Matt DesChamp. He is a member of the Board of Estimate and Taxation, also a candidate. Please vote. We have a vote coming up November 4th. Early voting starts the 20th of October. So I grew up, I'm a figure skater. I skated 6 hours a day from the time I was about 7 years old. I competed at a pretty high level, and I literally spent more of my childhood on ice rink than I did probably in school. And so I'm a big believer in skating. I'm a big believer in locating ice rinks near the center of town so people can participate, get excited. And the reason why I started skating was partially Dorothy Hamill herself. Actually, I was already skating, so I saw Peggy Fleming skate once. But we had an outdoor rink by my house growing up in Brookline, Massachusetts. And we would go out there and I could see other kids skating. So it just motivated me. So I would love to see this rink to be located towards the center of town. And if you go to Europe, like if you go to Gstaad or any of these places, their rinks are literally centered in their towns. You sit and you drink your coffee, and when you watch people kind of go around the ice, etc. So I don't know, that's my plug. Right there.
I appreciate the feedback. Consider it registered.
It's good. Okay, so one of the other areas that you spend a lot of time considering, Matt, is energy of management. Say these correctly, because I'm not going to get this right.
Yeah. So I'm a representative of the BET, the Board of Estimate and Taxation, for EMAC, which is the Energy Management Advisory Committee in town. I served as the liaison for the RTM when I was on the RTM for that same group. It's a group of dedicated volunteers who have experience and professional expertise in energy management across a variety of different types. So, and the work that they do is extraordinary. I've always been impressed by the work that's done there. Peter Schweinfurth, who's the chair, does an outstanding job with that group. He publishes an excellent report, an annual report that you can find again on his webpage, on the Energy Management Advisory Committee webpage. That is part of Town Hall's website. And the work that they're doing is important because energy costs are going up. And it's extremely expensive to pay Eversource for rising bills, and affordability is a significant issue for residents. It's the same issue with the town. So when we are paying for power, and we're paying it using grid rates that are highly volatile, upward sloping. Generally speaking, energy pricing is upward sloping to the right, and so it's going to cost more over time. If we can find cheaper sources of energy, alternative, sustainable sources of energy in particular, we ought to be looking heavily at that. So what EMAC did, and what I was involved with as well as many members of the RTM, was seeing if we couldn't refurbish the geothermal system at Ham Ave School.
Right.
And we were able to do that. And it was an independent engineer was hired. There was a cost estimation done over the life cycle of the project. And what we found was that it was actually going to be cheaper to refurbish the geothermal system than to use a new nat gas boiling system.
Wow. And it's so great to know that people like yourself who are really caring and devoted to doing the best that we can for our town. And again, I want to remind everybody, this is bipartisan. There's no political side on any of this.
Nope.
And everybody working together to figure out what we can do, whether it's renewable, to bring our costs down, not only for our individually, but for the town itself.
Absolutely.
Right. We don't have many solar panels. When I brought my kids up actually in Fairfield for years. I've been now in Greenwich about 8 years, but we had a lot of solar panels on the top of the schools, parking lots, et cetera. Are we going to be doing more of that here in town of Greenwich?
Yeah, so there was an investment tax credit that we could have availed ourselves of, and still can, up until July 5th or 4th or 5th of 2026. So the investment tax credit allows for a significant upfront capital savings in the investments into solar. And so what we were able to do is take advantage of that exact tax credit to put solar panels on the top of the Cohen Eastern Civic Greenwich. Yeah, and that's an extraordinary outcome for the town. The reason for that is about 70% of the energy needs of that building are going to be covered by solar panels.
That's amazing.
And we're going to pay about 6 cents a kilowatt hour relative to north of 20 cents a kilowatt hour. So these are real savings for the town.
Cool.
And if you take that over a life cycle of a building of 20 to 50 years, it's significant money.
It's massive. We need to do more of that. I really believe that. And again, these are the sort of areas where most of us are not aware of, we're not paying attention to. I don't think you get a lot of ticker tape parades for saving money on the Cohen Center, but this is really important to every one of us, all of us taxpayers, and we need to do more.
It is. I mean, the reality is operating budgets can be constrained. There's very little areas where you can say where can we find savings. One of those areas is on energy consumption, and it's on finding cheaper sources of energy. Solar panels, geothermal, alternate sources of energy have the ability to reduce costs, make us less reliant on Eversource and grid, but also have a added benefit. They're better for you. I mean, the indoor air quality of that school now with the geothermal system is much better for children with asthma, kids that are vulnerable, teachers as well. So like when you have a situation where the most expensive element of that building, of Ham Ave, where the wells that were built by residents that paid for that years ago before us, to take advantage of that benefit, that economic benefit, and to couple it with an environmental benefit and a health benefit, that is the absolute right thing to do for the town. And there's opportunities like that all across town. We just need leadership to do it. And I think what we also need, frankly, is an energy specialist in town hall who can help coordinate all these efforts with the Greenwich Public Schools, which is a major energy consumer, and town municipal buildings, and also set a pathway for sustainable energy consumption in the years ahead. And it all just requires leadership and effort. And we have the team to do it in EMAC. We need the expertise and leadership to do it in town hall as well. And I'm certainly, and my colleagues are focused on it from a budget perspective, because it's a way to keep costs down and reduce people's tax burden.
I just love that. That's kind of winning on every level. So are you going to, when you build or rebuild the Hamill Rink, will you be doing any sustainable?
That's an excellent question. Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the elements of our charge is not only to find a site, but make sure we're doing it consistent with the POCD, ADA compliance, and energy is part of that. So we are looking at, and Javier has done an excellent job in helping lead the effort to have us better understand what the optionalities are for geothermal, for solar, both at all of those locations I just mentioned, and then we can build it into some operating models that we want to do from an operating cost perspective as well. But the answer to your question is absolutely energy is part of it.
I love that. And again, we're blessed. We have in this town so many people willing to work really hard, and like yourself, Matt DesChamp, again, any of if you're listening right now, I'm talking to Matt DesChamp. He's a member of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. He's a candidate. He's a Democrat. Please vote row A, everybody. Uh, we are so lucky to have you and the rest of your group doing the best to look at what is best for us as a town, environmentally, health-wise, et cetera. And I'm not sure people tell you thank you.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll pass it along to all my colleagues. It's a volunteer group, and everybody cares deeply about this town, is committed to keeping our taxes low, committed to creating sustainable financial outcomes for our residents. We have residents of all different income levels in Greenwich. People don't always appreciate how diverse Greenwich is, and so that's certainly top of mind for me, is making sure, and my colleagues feel the same way, that we're doing what we can for all the residents of Greenwich, regardless of age and income level.
Okay, so that leads me into another question regarding funding for the skating rink. How are you guys going to manage to do that? Or are you calling for anybody who wants to donate money or partner with you from a private perspective? What's going on with that?
So our charge is to find a site location. That's what we're focused on. However, we are working with, and I'm having conversations with the Office of First Selectman, with Fred, about are there ways that we could engage public-private partnerships for this. That's really important. I think that there are going to be lots of very interesting ideas, regardless of the location, for us to find commercial enterprise and use capital markets to help provide opportunities for people to co-invest, opportunities for people to make donations. So we're having some conversations around it. And now that we're at the final stages of site selection, those conversations can become more meaningful.
I think that'd be amazing. Now, we do have some very high-level professional hockey players right here in town. Have you reached out to any of those gentlemen?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be able to have conversations with every element of hockey and figure skating level, from the young skaters in town who just love to get out on the ice, high school players, high school coaches, all the way to the professional level. We've had the very strong interest by a number of former New York Rangers to volunteer their time to help us where they can, and it's deeply appreciated by the task force.
That's really cool. Part of me is thinking, I hope somebody funds some scholarships to teach people skating.
That's a good idea. Maybe I'll take one of those.
There you go. But overall, I want to go back and reiterate that what's really key, everybody listening, and then this is Trevor and Friends, is please vote. We've got municipal elections coming up on November 4th. Bless you. Bob Small, our technician, is sneeze. Anyway, but I want to again reiterate how important it is to vote, right, Matt?
It's really important to vote. And again, exercise your democratic right. Go out and vote on November 4th, if not earlier. Make your views known. Local turnout on non-presidential elections, non-national elections is typically low. I would encourage all of your listeners to go out and vote. I would very much appreciate them voting row A, voting for all 6 of the Democratic candidates. It is my goal to have the tie-breaking vote in our hands. I think we bring the best slate of experience, of knowledge, of financial acumen, but also we work really well together as a team. And there's no drama with our group. We're focused on doing homework, doing the analysis, and getting to good outcomes for the residents of Greenwich. That's our goal.
That's pretty amazing. Again, back to love those words together: sound judgment. And we can reiterate and look at that. Now, how do people learn more about you if they're trying to get sort of educated prior to their vote? Where do you suggest they read, listen, learn?
The Greenwich DTC has a website. That's where our campaign is headquartered, if you will, and so you can find that online if you want to go and find more information. All of our bios are there. Our slate position, if you will, our policy positions are also there, so there's full transparency on where we stand on a variety of issues. You can also find us on Instagram. I'm on Instagram as well, and you can find my name there, and along with all of my colleagues as well. So we'd appreciate people looking into what we stand for, and what we advocate for, and why we're doing what we do, why we're volunteering for this work. And I think you'll be impressed when you get to know our team better. And again, I hope to get your support on November 4th.
Yeah, this is all about leadership, everybody, and about being clear about what our values are, about planning for the future, about having sustainable energy, ADA compliant schools, doing the best for our kids, for our water. We've got a lot of big projects we've got to plan for and fund over the next bunch of years. One of will be hardening the sewer system. I believe that's going to be a very large expense.
Yeah, there's a number of projects like that. We have a significant backlog capital project list. But the point you made a minute ago, I want to touch on too. I mean, there's two different types of leadership: there's unity and division. And we've seen both on display in our lifetimes. And I think what the Democratic BET, what the Democratic Party is trying to do in Greenwich is to bring unity. And you mentioned the groups that we worked on, EMAC and the Rink Task Force. It's nonpartisan. We're working together as a team. We're working together as a community, and that's absolutely the type of leadership that we represent.
I love that. Okay, we've got like 1 minute left, so I'm just going to start wrapping this up. Sitting here with Matt DesChamp, he is a board member of the Board of Estimate and Taxation, reminding everybody to vote November 4th. Early voting starts October 20th. It is truly, truly important that you vote. And again, there's something that I have to remember, which is the tie-breaking vote occurs because which side wins the most popular vote?
That's exactly right. So whichever party gets the most popular votes at the election for the BT will get the tie-breaking vote. And that's why it's critical that you vote for all 6 Democrats on November 4th, if not earlier, so that we get the most popular votes so that we can control the tie-breaking vote, which is critical for those major and sometimes more controversial decisions that affect the town.
So leadership through unity, everybody. This is we've got to run this town with the sense that everybody gets to talk, everybody's going to buy in, and the Democrats, Matt, and his 2 teams that he's working on, plus the BET, are working hard to do that. So thank you, everybody, for listening in today. This is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube. The show is brought to you by my business, trevorcrow.com. And everybody have a great, we're also on Substack as well. So everybody have a great week. Be healthy. Remember to do your homework and be sure to vote. Take care.